For some reason or another, they're jealous of us here in Massachusetts. And I'm surprised they can think that deeply, actually. They're not very intelligent. Well, how are we doing on the right here?
Traffic.
Traffic, thank you very much.
Clear.
All right, excellent. And yeah, I don't know what it is, folks. They're just not very intelligent. We don't really care at all. I'll give them a little equal time. We refer to them as maniacs. And when they refer to us, they leave that first letter off our state name. They give you a couple of definite facts about the state of Maine, all right? And first of all, did you know that the state of Maine is the only state in the country that is only bordered by one other state? Okay, Alaska and Hawaii, no states border them. To the east of Maine, you have the Atlantic Ocean. To the north, Canada. To the west, New Hampshire. And to the south of Maine is a 17-mile section of New Hampshire called Portsmouth, Hampton Beach, and Rye Beach and all. And that comes down and cuts Maine off from Massachusetts. And we're very grateful. How about, did you know Maine is the only state in the country with one syllable? Look at Ohio, right? 4 letters, 3 syllables. Ohio, right? Maine, that's it, plain old Maine. In case they get lost, it's easy to remember where they're from. You know, it's a beautiful state, though. There's no doubt about it. It's the largest of the New England states by far. There's Camden, Maine, where the mountains come down to the sea. The ocean right there. It is really nice. The #1 product in Maine is trees for the most part, and they're known as the toothpick capital of the world. Would you be proud of that? You know? #2 is potatoes. I mean, these things grow underground. How much work can be done? All right, they also have lobster. They're very well known. Their lobster, now the governor wants all Maine lobsters to be tagged Maine lobsters. Well, what does he do? Ask for an ID? You know, tell by its accent? What's the difference? They're the same. I don't know. So we got all sorts of stuff about the state of Maine, but it is a beautiful state. You know, the Bushes, they have their area up there in Kennebunkport. Okay, you know why they moved there, right? And why they have that? They go up there. Nobody knows who they are. How much safer can you get, right? So that's the state of Maine. But it is nice. Now we're in the town of Weston. There is no statistics or anything to it. Here's some of those old guardrails there. Some up front here. They take care of these. Other places you'll see them kind of rotted away. But supposedly this is the richest town in New England. So I know a lot of old money is here. Families from years and years and years that have lived in this town of Weston. A lot of money made by computers. Computers started, as it is in Lexington also, in those areas, digital computer and a whole bunch of other computers that started on this highway that we're missing, that we're not going on. A lot of stockbrokers and doctors that live out in these areas, and a lot of professional athletes live in this town, especially the Boston Celtics, as they practice in a town right next to Weston called Waltham. The ladies behind me are staying out there. Waltham, that's where the Waltham watch was invented, if you've ever heard of that. And they even have a pretty big factory out there, but very little of it is used as they fix the watches that are sent into them. Speaking of what's invented in towns, Concord. That's where the Concord grape was discovered. That's how it got its name. The most nutritional grape there is. And what's different also is that it's the only one that can be regrown in this climate of the Concord grapes. There you go, East 117. Now we'll get into a little better area. I wish we could get up into the hills here in Auburn. You just can't because of this is a bus, that's why, basically. But, see now, we're going to see a couple of taverns up here. But, oh, you might even see some that I've never noticed. They might have a square thing about this big on the front of their house with the date of when that house was built. Now I'm going to tell you about the Big Dig. All right, what the heck? You guys help pay for it, so you might as well know. You know, it's kind of a sad situation now. I used to be able to make fun of it, but a couple of weeks ago we had a lady killed in it because of what happened. Here's a tavern here with the flag on it, okay? Built in 1825, so maybe not that much of one, but up here on the left, we'll see the Whitney Tavern. It's a house now, obviously been redone. The street is named after it. Here it is up there, and added to and all, but that was definitely a tavern. And we take a right up here, the house on our left, it looks like a two-family house now, but I think that was definitely a tavern maybe, or a very old house. And you can tell by the corner of it, just like the house back in Cambridge that was built in 1685. Now this big dig, I'm going to give you guys the full story. I'm not going to try to shorten it. This started back in, believe it or not, in the 40s. Okay, there's that house I was talking about. See the corner there? Looks pretty old. I'm going to have to interrupt the story every once in a while. By the way, these tracks were going over part of our commuter rail, way out to Worcester, Mass, up to New Hampshire, and some of them right down to Providence, Rhode Island. Part of our public transportation system. Now, the reason that this big dig actually started back in the 40s was because Boston Harbor was disgustingly polluted before pollution was even a big deal. And this was done by the old gasoline engines of the fishing boats. So they banned all fishing boats from Boston Harbor. And when they did that, these solid granite block buildings that went along the harbor now lay empty. These are the buildings that accepted the fishing boats and iced down the fish and all in large quantities and shipped them out on tractor trailer or whatever. And now they obviously stunk too. And then in the early 50s, they knew they needed a highway going through Boston, north-south, south-north, and they decided to put it along the waterfront because what the heck, nobody goes there, it smells so bad. And they said, being Boston and all this, that it would be Boston. And they knew they needed to do something. So with plus the elevated highway, you're going to have to take it down sooner or later. So the great minds of Harvard and MIT and other technical schools got together and came up with a plan that they submitted to the United States government in 1986 of a tunnel to be dug through the city of Boston using modern technology never used in not only the digging of it, but the forming of the walls and all that. And the U.S. government okayed it. Back then we had a man by the name of Neal, great man, leader, Speaker of the House, very powerful, from Massachusetts, and they okayed it at a cost back then of $6.5 billion and to be completed by 1998. Well, folks, those figures have risen a little bit. That's now not to be completed for at least 3 more years. Now at a cost rapidly approaching $15 billion, an unbelievable amount of money. Now I'm going to stop for a second. The Western Green over here on the right. Folks, every September 1st, I let these cars go by me, they place over 3,000 flags on that green to remember all the casualties that happened of that horrible day of September 11th, 2001. And they leave them up for a couple of weeks. Okay? It's just unbelievable. All right, small flags, as this town had a very large number in comparison with the population of the town of folks that were killed in that horrible incident. Okay? And check out this church over here on the left. Look at that. Every single one of those rocks individually placed there. This was built back in the 1850s. Now, I'm going to take a left and go across the street. And when you look to your left, you'll see how big this church really is. It's huge. But quickly on the right, the white building, that's the Josiah Smith Tavern and Barn, right there. Okay, this is Weston, another one of those nice quaint towns, you know. And as we go across the street here, check out to your left how big this church really is. There you go. And before I get back to the big dig, we are going to cross Route 20. Now Route 20 starts inland about 5 miles from the ocean, about 10 miles north of Boston, and goes all the way to Newport, Oregon, right to the Pacific Ocean. This, folks, is the longest road in the country. Okay, it's about 240 miles longer than Route 90, which goes to Seattle, Washington, and starts in Boston, because it does more dips and curves and things like that, okay? At certain parts, it becomes a part of Route 90. They run together. All right, so anybody familiar with it in other parts of the country at all? Route 20, but it does. It goes right to Newport, Oregon. So getting back to that big dig now, they okayed it, $15 billion. It's the most expensive one project ever undertaken in the world. We have actually put men on the moon twice for a combined amount of money, less than that. Okay? And what happened, folks, is very sad, and I'm embarrassed. Been told not to be. It happens all the time. The government gets involved. They put 2 different major contractors in charge of the project, and they couldn't do all the work, and they'd hire sublease, certain parts of the job, supposedly the low bidder. Next thing you know, brother-in-laws are involved, high campaign contributions are involved. You know what I mean? It went on and on. They try to milk it for as much money as they could. Here's quite a Halloween thing on the left there, by the way. And that's what happened. It just went on and on and on. Okay, also on the right, we have the town Wellesley right up there. And that's where we have the Women's College, Wellesley College. A lot of very famous businesswomen and even politicians, medical, and all. Mrs. Hillary Clinton attended Wellesley College. Well, so that's what happened with the big dig. It went on and on. And they're trying to cap it, and then they found that when this lady was killed because of a ceiling tile coming down on a very small section of a side tunnel is where it happened. I'll try to show you where it was. We got to be right near it. And found the men that were putting in the tiles that was kept up by steel rods weren't galvanizing the rods, just to save a little money. They were watering down glue, putting tile up, the glue that holds the tile and all that. So it's sad. It went on and on. We'll be in it. We'll go in the major section of the tunnel and all, and we'll see what happens. I mean, it's nice. It's all right. It's safe there. Oh, by the way, I just got to slow down a little bit here, as when I got left off this morning, I told my driver to close the gate. All right, nice job. Excellent. I'm sick and tired of the neighbors coming over. I wanted to borrow this and that, man. They never return. I wish. Now, Boston police out here. We are very close to Boston, and you'll see why this area is such a convenient place, because we have the public transportation there, another spot I'll show you further on, and the 2 major highways right near here. Also, we'll have a golf course over here on the right in Pine Brook Country Club, and I'm going to tell you right now, folks, if you see any golfers, it's rare, because it's the richest, the most expensive country club to belong to. It's beautiful. It's up here a few more turns, but they belong to it for the convenience of business connections and all that. And they can come from far away to get here real quick, as you'll see when we get where the 2 major highways come together. Route 90 and Route 95 also. Okay, so it's quite a thing. But this was a pretty nice area. We're not at the end of it yet. I always like this house here with the flat rock on it there. For some reason, that house there was always, when I was a kid, I always noticed it. And here it is up here on the right, folks, on a beautiful course. Beautiful day like today. See if there's any golfers today. See any? Right? See what I mean? I mean, this could be June, July, August. Yeah, there's a couple here and there, yeah. All right, unbelievable. Look at how beautiful they keep it too. You don't see hardly any leaves down there. All right, look at all the trees though. They keep it nice and clean and all. But they're very strict about these folks having guests. A guest can only come on a Monday. A member can only have one guest per Monday, and a guest can only play once a year. All right, yeah, they're very strict about that. But as I said, this is all for business connections. Now we saw probably a good 10 holes right there. And what do we see? 4 golfers, right? Yeah, but if a dinner happens here, one reason or another, they all show up then. Oh yeah, now you'll see how close we are to the highways in a minute. We also have a lot of other country clubs in the area. Some of them have held major tournaments. One of them, called the Country Club, that's in Brookline, and that's where John F. Kennedy was born, and that touches Boston, directly west of Boston, and it's called the Country Club because it's the first country club in the country. It is also the second golf course made in the country, and that's where they held the U.S. Open there, and also the Ryder Cup has been held there a couple of times. And it's absolutely gorgeous, that one there. And then, I'm sorry, buddy. I just, everybody needs exercise. Now look at even that dry wall across here. Okay, I'm going to take a quick left and a right, and we'll be right near the end of the green line. And that's the part of our MBTA system that goes underground in Boston, and it starts north of Boston, comes under the Charles River actually, no, over the Charles River, I'm sorry, and by the Science Museum and into Boston, and all the way out to this area here. Okay, here we go. The bridge that green line goes over is the only spot in the world where, let me think what it is. You can have an airplane flying over, you can walk over the bridge, drive over it with a car, they have a train that goes over it, and boats underneath it. Yeah, that's it. There are more ways of travel right there than any other one spot in the world or something. It's the fact that the trains are there also, the boats and all. All right, and then they add scuba gear and all that, So now we're about to hop on. If we went the wrong way, we could go all the way to the Pacific Ocean. We're not gonna now. I take a left here, get back on the highway. We're gonna go through one city to get back to Boston. That's it. The city of Newton, the city I grew up in and lived in, worked in, and retired from. See Riverside right down here, the end of the green line. And we'll hop right back in. We'll get a good view of Boston coming in. And it's quite a story about the John Hancock building that I'll tell you. Now I got this blue square up here, and this gets me right through the fast lane. Oh, this is awesome. All right, don't have to wait and pay money and get a receipt and all that. And it's also good, like New Hampshire and New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania can use it all over. Of course, they don't have it in Maine. Computer stuff, they're still trying to get used to the tape recorder up there. Here's the highway that we missed. All right, and if you take a look to your left, you'll see those 3 antennas way out there. That's the Lincoln Labs that MIT owns. Charles River down here on the right, and those antennas. What makes that so famous? A couple of things. First of all, that radar was invented in England, and that hill was the first spot ever that radar was put. Okay, right there on Lincoln Labs. You can't get near it even today. There's all sorts of fences with barbed wire on the front of it and guards patrolling around there. MIT has a lot of stuff and research that we don't even know about. Now, there was a man by the name of Dr. Draper from MIT that invented the thing that the astronauts go in before they get out of space, so they get used to weightlessness. Now, not anymore, but that's where they used to go for it. There was some type of a gyroscope machinery or something, okay? This city of Newton, this is actually where Boston College is. On the eastern end of Newton and the western end of Boston, directly in the direct west, right in the middle of Boston. And this city very well known for its public education system and also the school system here, and also has been named 3 or maybe 4 times since the 1980s as cities or towns of 75,000 people or more as being the safest city in America. So that's pretty cool. It is a real nice city. We get that many people and stuff. And quickly into Boston, just like Weston is. It has the poor areas here also. Not, real poor, but it's not like everybody here is rich is what I'm trying to say. So it's nice. On the left is our tracks for the commuter rail. Also, I told you about Brookline. That's where John F. Kennedy was born. We also have in Quincy, one city south of Boston, touching Boston, along the water, where the birthplace of John Adams, our 2nd president, and John Quincy Adams, his son, our 6th president. And in between the two of them is the town of Milton. And that touches Boston also. And that is where, it's a very little known fact, George Bush Sr. was born. He was born in a house in Milton, and he lived in that house till he was about 3.5 years old. And then his family moved to Connecticut and then to Texas, where they are now. Now, the town of Milton is a very staunch Democratic town, and they put it on the ballot, and it's outvoted all the time to make that house George Bush was born in a national landmark. Imagine that. Here's our commuter rail, and they outvoted all the time. And there's nobody from Milton that will ever admit they voted against it. You talk to any, oh no, I didn't, no. But it's always soundly defeated. We just went under a supermarket, if you happen to notice that. Up here, yeah, you ever do that before? And up here we're going to go underneath the hotel, the Sheraton now. Originally it was Howard Johnson's hotel, built back in the early 60s. And they had a hotel, restaurant, and lounge. And about the beginning of the 70s, there was a gentleman that hung around the lounge here that was a professor at MIT that invented the widescreen TV. And the one he invented, he put in the lounge here. It was about the size of one of my windshields, about 10 years before widescreen TVs even went on sale. Okay, the actual one he invented. And this place used to get packed for Sunday football games and all that. I remember it was a box about this big or so that was about 10 feet away, and it had 3 like spotlights that shined on it, and that's how the picture came out. So it was quite a thing. I don't know the whole story, but something like that. Now we're going to see the skyline of Boston right in front of us, and we'll be in Boston in just a minute. There's a entering Boston sign on the right, and popping up on the right there's the John Hancock building that you can see above the trees. And right next to it is the first building built in the landfill I told you about, and that's the Trinity Church. I hope you folks get to go to the Trinity Church. It's gorgeous. That was built in the 1860s on top of what was then mud. That's all it was mud all around, land getting filled in. And the minister back then and his congregation, being the first building there, to them it meant a lot anyways, and they enacted a law through the state legislature that said that no building could be built around the Trinity Church that would stop the sun from shining on it in the morning. To them that meant a lot, all right? By the way, that building with the red trim right in front of us, that's the world headquarters of New Balance sneakers. So all the other buildings were built around it, including the Prudential Center. There it is right there, the second tallest building in Boston. That was built in the 1963, I think, when it opened. It proved that even in the landfill you could have these tall buildings. So they started the planning of the John Hancock building, and that area right there is without a doubt the windiest section of Boston. And the plans came out, but the minister, 100 years later in 1968, when he saw the plans for the John Hancock building at the Trinity Church, he made them change the angle of it. It was like this now. It was originally supposed to be like this, because the law was no building could be built around the Trinity Church that stopped the sun from shining on in the morning, and a law is a law, and the building department made them change the angle. Now, they had already conferred with the wind experts on how to build the building, what type of glass and all, because when the wind comes, the building actually sways and bends. But they didn't reconfer with the wind experts when they finished it. And in the fall, September and October of 1971, this was on front cover of Time magazine, Newsweek, National News, everything. 60 Minutes even did a thing on it. When the winds came really bad, the fall of 1971, out of the 10,344 windows in that building, over 300 of them popped out, came crashing to the ground. Now, nobody was ever hurt. That's good. They immediately put ceilings on top of all the sidewalks, thick wood. Okay? A lot of flat tires, so nobody was hurt. And they actually nicknamed it Woodpecker Palace because it had plywood covering all the windows that fell out. And then they went and replaced every single window in that building, 2 panes of glass in each window, and they used a thicker, tougher glass and spread the panes out further from each other, so if the interior one bent, it didn't hit the exterior one and push it out. And then individually alarmed every window in that building as it is today. Well, this cost the John Hancock Insurance Company quite a bit of money. Obviously, they basically rebuilt the whole building, and they went to sue everybody they could so they could recoup their money. The contractors, the window makers, the wind experts, even the Trinity Church. And what did they find out? Everybody they were suing, they already insured. All they were doing was suing themselves. Yeah, true story, folks. Yeah. Now here on the right with the people in it, those stands there, up until 1954, folks, that was Braves Field. If you remember the Boston Braves, Johnny Spain, I forget now, and Pray for Rain, Spahn and Sain and Pray for Rain. There's a soccer game going on there now. Looks like they're going through the national anthem, actually. And in 1954, they moved to Milwaukee, where a gentleman by the name of Hank Aaron joined the team. Now they're the Atlanta Braves. Now, quick look back to the John Hancock. You see that building on the left of it? The antenna goes 3/4 of the way up to John Hancock. That's the old John Hancock building. And see the stanchion that holds that antenna on the roof of the building. And right there, well, that actually lights up different colors at night. Maybe you've already seen it. Obviously, it's more prominent at night than during the day. Okay, and the colors are either blue, red, flashing blue, or flashing red. And they all mean something different. It's pretty much the forecast of the weather. Like flashing blue, clouds of dew. Steady red, rain ahead. And then if it's solid blue, that means cloudless skies. And the only one left is flashing red. And during the winter time, flashing red means that snow is forecast. And during the summertime, flashing red means that the Red Sox game is canceled due to rain. Yeah, that's how people knew back then. They didn't have AM, FM radios in their horse and buggies. And it's still used today. Here's Fenway Park once again. And in 1997, flashing red meant the same thing. The only time when the Red Sox game was canceled due to snow. Quite a thing. You ever hear of the longest home run ever hit? Unbelievable, folks. Right over the green monster, the left field wall, came down on the roof of that building, hadn't hit ground yet, over to the westbound traffic, onto a tractor trailer, didn't get off till Detroit. There you go. That's an old one, I know. John Hancock to the left. You can't go to the top of it. You can go to the top of the Prudential on the right, okay? Telescopes and all that up there that you can see, all right? And all around, a little cloudy, but I think it'd be a good day for it. Here we go, underneath Massachusetts Avenue. Once again here, folks. There you go, the route that the British took all the way out to Concord and all. Okay, we've already been in this tunnel. Now, if this was a weekday, before they built the big dig and all that, okay, there's an exit up here. At this time of day, when we get out, you can see the light up in front of us. It would become stop and go traffic, okay, because we're heading east, and you can only go so far, folks, or we'd be swimming in the Atlantic Ocean. So you have to go right north or south, and before the big dig tunnel, it would always be so packed. All right. Now we'll see a lot of new ramps out there, and those ramps are what keep everybody. They get off the road, and then they kind of spider web them through the city. Because when we get into the tunnel, you'll see the difference. No exits and no on-ramps. Okay, and I'll show you what we mean. By the way, the Ted Williams Tunnel's to the right here, and this access road that gets to the Ted Williams Tunnel is where the horrible accident happened. It was closed down for quite a while. Our governor took over the project, but he has half opened it now. Now, the reason the tunnel is named after Ted Williams, it goes under the Boston Harbor, is because Ted Williams, possibly the best baseball player that ever played the game, utilizing the great eyesight he had to hit a baseball, folks, he joined the United States Marine Corps as a fighter pilot. In the Korean War, came back, played baseball, and in the prime of his career, already having done his civic duty, he started in World War II, my fault, all right, and then came back and joined back into the United States Marine Corps as a fighter pilot in the Korean War, where his plane was hit by enemy fire. He definitely saw action. He was the wingman for John Glenn, the famous astronaut. All right, so here's all these ramps and all this, all right, folks? And we're coming into it. The tunnel starts a little bit further back here, and we'll come in. We're always on TV in here, so there's two of them there. There's one looking right at us. Okay, what the heck? You helped pay for it. 97% of the money was federal, and I'd like to thank each and every one of you individually. Now, as we go in, look at this, no traffic. I mean, we would be now, Sunday, this time of day, we would be in stop and go traffic. Now, on the elevated highway, tractor trailers, well, all the vehicles that you see here. Look at this, 4 lanes. This is unbelievable. It just keeps moving. We're still getting used to it. And a lot of these people, I'm sure it's their first time ever in this tunnel. A lot of them, okay? So they might be looking around. And don't forget, on the other side, we have the southbound lanes and no exits. Notice that? No on-ramps. See, everybody that got off beforehand. Now, the exit we will take is on the north side of it, and that's because right there is the north end of Boston with the great Italian restaurants and all. You'll recognize the red brick and very old. You're experts on brick now. And that's the original part of Boston. We can't get up there, trolleys and buses, because the streets were originally horse and cow paths, all right, until they finally tarred them over. They're too narrow and windy. So there you go, the big tunnel. What a difference, I'll tell you, folks. What we just did there, from when I started describing about, would have taken us easily a half hour. We just did in about 2.5 minutes, right? So that's the difference. Thank you very much. Now, as we come out here, up to the right, you'll see the north end. You'll see a yellow billboard. Look to the right of that, something I want to show you. And then you'll see a tree over here to the right of the gold dome. Look to the left of the tree and you'll see a chimney. Look to the right of that chimney and look at that, what looks like a church spire. Now you see the white one that's popping up there? That's the old North Church steeple right there. All right? And we have, there's the north end, go to Martinetti's, that's Hanover Street. No lack of great restaurants there. Right there with the beer sign on it, the curved roof, that is where the Bruins and the Celtics play. It's called Bank North Garden now. That was built 9 inches away from the old Boston Garden that was on this side of it. The old parquet floor, Bob Cousy, Bill Russell, John Havlicek, Larry Bird. I mean, I could go on for days talking about the Celtics. At one point, they won 9 NBA championships in a row, folks. Unbelievable. And the Chicago Bulls were so thrilled about 3 in a row. All right, we had quite a team back then. All right, and the Bruins played there also. The old Union Oyster House, the oldest restaurant in the country, right there. where John F. Kennedy went there to enjoy his oyster stew all the time. Now up here, this is where all that elevated highway was. I'll get you a better look at it soon. These buildings up here haven't seen sunlight since the 50s. Okay? Here's some of those old granite block buildings like I told you about that they're now made into condos and all. Now there's that bike with 8 people on it. Now look, see the 4 pillars right there? That's the building you want to go in, okay? Right there for food. All right, all sorts of restaurants. Quickly, folks, way over there on the left by the trees, the cement pillars, you might look in it and see some roses where the 2 guys are walking in right now. That is the Rose Fitzgerald Kennedy Rose Garden. Quite a woman. A lot of tragedy in her life. The mother of Ted, John F. Kennedy, Joseph Kennedy, and all that. And you know, she lived to be 104 years old. And on her 100th birthday, they had a big party for her right there, and they planted 100 roses. And they asked the Rose, what's it like to be 100 years old? How do you feel? And she replied, well, I've noticed a definite lack of peer pressure. Now, here's where the elevated highway was, believe it or not. Now, folks, listen, I'm going to take it right here. Those of you on the all-day tour, look to your left. Do you see the blue whale on top of the word Ticket Center? Right there, Harbor Tour and Beantown Trolley. The red trolley right there, okay, folks? All right. The Black Rose right here, 17 sections, you will be right at that 4 pillars for the food and all that. Now, hang on, there's a few things I want to tell you. The Harbor Tour leaves on the half hour every hour. The Beantown, that's the site of the Boston Massacre right there. Okay? Now, if there's anybody that isn't on the Beantown Trolley this afternoon, the total experience, and you need to get somewhere else, stay on the bus, okay? And I'll see what we can do. Other than that, have a great day, and I'll hop outside if anybody...
Okay, there's the Black Rose. Sheila said it's the oldest Irish bar in what, Boston? Or the United States? In Boston. We're in kind of a touristy or old-fashioned area, and I don't really know what it is. We'll have to look it up on a map later. Okay, we're in Quincy Market, and there's our Philly cheesesteak sandwich and french fries. And it's not bad, but it's not Philly cheesesteak. I guess you have to go to Philadelphia to get Philly cheesesteak. Anyway, we're in the Commons area right now where people eat. We're going to go see a bunch of shops and stuff here in a few minutes. Okay, this is inside part of Quincy Market, or Fern Hall Market, or I don't know where we're at. I'll try to figure it out pretty soon. We're one layer lower down from the... Okay, now we're in the Black Rose. We're going to be eating here, kind of a snack. Sheila says it's the oldest Irish bar in Boston. You saw a picture of the outside earlier. There's Sheila's chips, and I had bangers and bread, but they were kind of overcooked. They don't taste bad, but I cut off the burnt part. Sheila had some beer. The shrimp and linguine. Sheila's salad, but kind of wasn't.
It's a Louis.
And we're at McCormick and Smith's.
Alrighty, folks. You're going to notice at the top of your menu is a date.
Okay, that's where we just ate. McCormick and Smith's Seafood Restaurant in our hotel. Sheila had a salad. I had a shrimp and scallop linguine, and they were both really good. Now I'm waiting for the bus to go to the convention center. Okay, I'm on a walkway right in the middle of the vendors. And there you can see how many there are. This is half. Then I'll show the other half. And then again, I'm up on a walkway up above them. And there's 20, if I remember right, 27 aisles. And there's the things I picked up, just going through real quickly. I've got 3 bags sitting there full, and then one that my cameras and stuff come in. I'm walking over to the other side. Give you some idea, there's whole helicopters in here. There's big motor homes, and I'll go across and show you some helicopters. If I can find them. Well, they're out there anyway. I think that may be one over there, but I'm not sure. Does that look like a helicopter? Well, one last look. I'm going to go vote and then head back to the room. It's 3 o'clock Monday. And that'll show you some of the crowd down there. Okay, downtown Boston. Just left the convention center. Chinatown. There's the place where we got our tickets made. Like we're going to be let off first. There's our hotel right there. Okay. Iacp 2006 Boston. This is my collection from going through the vendors today. As near as I can tell, I've got 12 hats, about a dozen bags, about 12 bags, a lobster hat, a travel mug there. There's all my other bags. And then a large pile of candy, as you can see. And then several little squeeze toys and Matchbox collectibles. A couple of little bags there for cell phones. Some business card holders. Some New Orleans memorabilia to include refrigerator magnets and keychains and beads and a big bag to put it all in. Oh, and some coasters too. I forgot to mention the coasters. They're right there. And then I got an assortment of notebooks and pocket planners and assorted things. Keychains, a hand padding thing to put on luggage, highlighters, little lights, a whole bunch of neck ID holders, several clips, and a couple of pens, some more squeezy things, and a real nice knife. So, and then a couple of, let me go down and hit the balls and then I'll restart and you can watch them blink. And just as soon as I got one blinking, the other one quit. And then the other one quit. Not to mention they're out of focus. But you get the general idea. Couple of bouncing balls there that blink when you bounce them. Anyway, that's my take. One day walking through real quick, about 3 hours, only picked up the good stuff and didn't work to get anything. Well, if you can see it, this is our bus ride. If you can't see it, that's because it's too dark. Oh yeah, right. Anyway, we're almost standing up.
I always figure it could be.
It might be a little bit better to turn the lights on to read.
You know, you're not
Okay, this is the entrance to Host Chief's Night. And there are the Missouri Clydesdales, if you can see them. I realize it's Budweiser Clydesdales. I realize that's a little dark. There's the Clydesdales. We know they're from Missouri.
It's really tough to get
There's the backslide. Okay, we actually can see food now. Actually, we can see seafood now. I don't know know when we'll ever get up there, but we can see it.
You'll get up there in just a matter.
We can dance, everything's under control. We can dance, we can dance, doing it from pole to pole. We can dance, everybody look at your hands. We can dance.
Sheila's up there somewhere. There she is. And there's a convention center in the background. There's a convention center in the background. And there's Boston at night.
Come, amigo. Amigo. Amigo.
I suspect it's all out of focus from the way it looks, but I can't help that. Tuesday morning, we're eating at Finale, a little coffee shop restaurant in our hotel, and we're having sandwiches and soup. There's what's left of my sandwich. I almost forgot to take a picture. Roasted chicken, and I don't know what Sheila had, and then there's some soup she had, which was very good, smoky bean type soup. And this is by far the most economical meal we've had. It was only $21, and it's pretty good. We're going to go ride the trolleys, we hope, here pretty soon.
About the sculpted out little pond in the middle, 100 kinds of trees. Picturesque little footbridge only people will not be seeing on the swan boats they've been put away for the winter. So 200 years difference. Old city to the right, new city back bay, newer city that is, to the left. Definitely not new anymore. Well, the swans may be gone, but the ducks are still here. You might remember the children's book, Make Way for Ducklings, written in the 40s by Robert McCloskey, still very popular here. Now, the public gardens will find a sculpture of the ducks from the story. Look to your left. View the opening of the foliage by the park benches. There they are. On the ballot, many ducklings. There's Jack, Cat, Black, Knack, Knack, Oack, Pack, and Quack. I guess that's what ducks mean there, ducklings, because they have beaks and they can't say much more than quack sounds. Okay, now down the street to your left, the yellow flag and the American flag mark the location of the original Cheers, the place that inspired the long-running TV capital of Massachusetts. Here on the right, exquisite bronze sculpture shows you the black soldiers from the 54th Regiment during the Civil War. Leaving Boston, the first all-black regiment headed south to fight for their freedom. Their white Captain Robert Gould Shaw negotiated equal pay between black and white soldiers. First time that was accomplished. Next statue to your left is Mary Dyer up on the wall there, the young woman. She was a Quaker back in 1660 and during a terrible dispute between the Quakers and the Puritans. A religious uproar, Mary Dyer was hanged on the common for her defiance against the Puritan Church. That's how brutal things were in those days. But the whole uproar did have a positive consequence in the end. It opens people's eyes and led to the birth of that concept on our Bill of Rights, freedom of religion. So here we have to the left, the rear part of the Capitol. To the right is 122 Bowdoin Street. And the windows just above Capitol Coffee House that once belonged to the apartment of John F. Kennedy. That was his address, 122 Bowdoin Street, Boston. Now, moving down the other side of Beacon Hill, again the neighborhood to your left. And ahead of us, the modern concrete look of Government Center, a whole area that was all redeveloped in an urban renewal project in the 60s. And that is definitely the look and the style we see in 1960s. The 40s, it was a whole different character down here. Scully Square, in its heyday, electric signs, electric lights, bars, pubs, cheap tattoo parlors, burlesque theaters, of course, and all the sailors and servicemen of World War II down here looking for a good time. The only surviving piece of the 40s here at Scully Square would be the Red Hat, little tavern right next to us. That's the only piece that remains as it was. The rest of the area did become undesirable, became a red light district basically, and so I wanted the decision to get rid of it, rebuild. So the architect of the Capitol was Charles Bulfinch. His apprentice was Asher Benjamin, who designed this beautiful church on the right. The Old West Church, not quite as famous as the Old North or Old South churches, but does have one little claim to fame, 1960. The election polls were held at Old West Church. John F. Kennedy came here to vote for himself for president. Well, we got horrible, horrible traffic here, so you're going to get a good long look at some of the streets of Beacon Hill on your left. And looking right up where that do not enter sign is, when we get up closer to it, you'll see how narrow some of the neighborhood streets really are. $2 to $3 million. John Kerry and Teresa Hines live in this neighborhood. Remember the former presidential candidate? As I said at the beginning of the tour, worked in the shipping industry. Had a long wharf there. He made his own fortune. Although he was wealthy to begin with, then he was a guy who loved to show off. If you see walk good riding the streets of Boston in fancy suits and waistcoats and embroidered satin, breeches of velvet, silk stockings, shoes with silver and gold buckles, lots of lace and ruffles with gold lace around one person you noticed him all right, and that was King George III, because wealthy as he was, John Hancock would not pay a penny of tax to England. So the king made him number one on his list of dangerous traitors. He even put a price on his head, 500 pounds. Made John Hancock pretty angry. So the 4th of July, 1776, down in Philadelphia, he didn't hesitate to sign the Declaration of Independence. Now, he was taking a big chance, being the first signer. If America won the war, he would be honored. But if they lost, he would be first to hang for treason. He was willing to take the risk. He signed it really big to show how much he meant it. And as he signed it, he said, George III can read that without his spectacles. Now he can double his reward for my head. And those were his words upon signing it. So that's a little story about